we're just going to do a little, I don't know, kind of a Zentangle design, I guess. Just based on a square. Doesn't really have to be a 2-inch square. You can measure whatever size you want. But we're going to cut it in half, so I'm just going from the 0 to the 2, marking it at the half. Already did 2 sides of it. And I'm just going to do it all the way around. Just make a little square. And marking it at the inch. And the reason I'm doing that is because we're going to create a little radial design for a little pen exploration here. So basically, I'm going to get this 4 1-inch squares, and whatever I do in one square, I'm going to do it in all squares, and I'm just going to rotate as I go. So I'm just going to use my ruler here. It doesn't matter how you make these lines. You can do arcing lines, you can do straight lines. You just want them all to be the same. And I can make it more free flow if I want. Just with some arcs. But anything I do in one square, I want to do in all of them. So if I want to make a arc now, I'm just going to turn and do the exact same line in the next square. And I'm not going to overthink this. I'm just trying to create a very quick design for exploring my pens, because we're going to try 4 different pen techniques. And whatever you do in one square, you just have to make sure you do the exact same thing in each of them. And I'm keeping my lines light. I'll go over it with my pen when I get to the point of doing the pens. Once I have my just kind of abstract design that I'm going to use for this, I'm going to get the pen and I'm going to try 4 different techniques. And the first one is called hatching. And I'm just going to choose a shape in each of these 4 segments that I am going to use hatching for. And hatching, all of the lines are made in the same direction, very close together. So I'm going to use a little bit of a cross contour here. And I'm going to try and go from very dark to lighter and lighter and lighter. And the way you control that with the pen is a combination of tilt, distance between the lines, how close you put them together, and pressure down. So where I want it darker, like at the base, I want to move my hand up. I'm going to hold it closer to the end so that I get a straighter up and down tilt of my pen. That's going to put more pressure, more ink will be dropped, and I'm going to put it closer together down there. And then as I get further out, I'm going to scoot back on my pen, which hopefully will tilt my pen more to the side, which will affect the thickness of the line that I'm going to get. So the more up and down I am, The more pressure, the heavier my lines are. The further I scoot back, I start to get an angle on my pen nib. And the further I go, the lighter, the less ink it begins to drop. So that's the first technique. The next one is called cross hatching. And cross hatching is just exactly that. It's you do the hatching motion. So you do the same kind of hatching as far as within your shape, same one direction. But with cross hatching, instead of keeping everything in one direction, any place you want darker, you hatch back through in an opposite or a new direction. And the more you hatch through in a different direction, the darker that area becomes. The next one after that is called stippling. And stippling is created using dots. Don't push down too hard. Don't get crazy and start smacking it up and down. You will ruin the nib on your pen. Stippling takes a lot of patience. It's not one of my favorite pen techniques, although I use it in certain places. It makes great textures in things like noses, for like animals. If you've ever looked at like a cat's nose, they have this really, really pronounced sandpapery look. And the way that you control this one is the more dots, the darker the value. The fewer the dots, the lighter. So it's just a matter of how close you put your dots together. Again, whatever you do in one box, you need to make sure you do in the next box the same way. The last of the 4 techniques is called scumbling. And scumbling is, it's kind of just scribbling, really. It works really, really well for irregular textures like scaly places or really wrinkly skin like rhinoceros and elephants and things like that. But it's just a messy line. And the darker you want it, the closer you put your lines together. Stippling and scumbling often work really well. Like cats have really sandpapery noses and really raspy tongues, like little hooks on them actually. But these are the 4 techniques, the basic techniques of pen. And it's all controlled by the angle of your pen and your pressure. Sometimes you have to experiment a little bit to see how far over can I twist my pen before I lose my color.